56% of young men have a better chance of being a productive citizen if they get in contact with a mentor.
Yeah.
And that's what Strong in My Father is about, is trying to find a way to help your young son have the opportunity to become a productive citizen, because we also continue to see on the news on a regular basis, either shootings, robberies, those pretty much the main two you see. And when they show a picture of a young African-American male, first question I ask is that, where is his father? Because no good father wants to train a child to do crime.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting. Yeah. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Yeah, mostly. That's right, Mr. Matt Wilson. Thank you very much for your Big VO voiceover for the intro of this show. Check his podcast out at Mostly Marketing with Matt Wilson. He does a great job with that. Needs to put out more episodes on a more consistent basis, but whenever he does, it's like a real treat, because he's just, I'll say he's much better than I am at being a host. So, take it for what it is. Yes, this is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and we have real conversations that meander. They have offshoots, tangents, rabbit holes, but still we get back to the main timeline, if you will. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out. You can watch it or listen to it. Follow along at MMTBP.com. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and It's Your Show.co. And today, an old friend of mine's coming back on. This is a trifecta in yet another amalgamation of this podcast. He was on back when it was called What's Your Problem? He was on that podcast twice, actually. And today we're going to be talking about the challenges therein with nonprofits. Welcome to the show, Mr. Marcus Meneese, sir. Always a pleasure.
Hey, Jim. Appreciate you bringing me back for another podcast with you.
Like, you're not a best friend. My wife's my best friend, but you're certainly one of my better friends.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah. You've been like a big brother to me and guiding me. And,
likewise.
Through our challenges in business, you've been there to listen to me and
I do a lot of listening.
Why am I keep listening to him? I probably owe you a big bill for all the times I called you. But I appreciate you having me on your podcast again.
Oh man, that's always a pleasure. So you've been doing the organization called Stronger Than My Father. You have a tremendous following. You have a lot of endearment from the community. A lot of people who come in contact with you always like you. You're definitely got the tenets of a good salesman, because that's one of the things about selling and sales is buying from someone who like, and trust. You certainly are very likable and very trustworthy once someone gets to know you. You and I now going on over 2 years, going on almost 3.
Almost 3, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
We've known each other and producing your podcast, the Stronger Than My Father podcast.
Yeah.
And, just basically for those of you who haven't, for those people who are listening who haven't heard of your organization, 50,000 foot view, describe what is it that you do with your nonprofit?
Yeah. Our main focus is to focus on young men growing up in a home without a father. We see the statistics. They are alarming of the challenges that young men and young women face when they are in a home when there is not a father there. Our program focuses on young men. We want to be sure that these young men get in contact with guys that can put them in a better position to be successful.
Yeah.
When young men, it's on my website, I believe I have 56% of young men have a better chance of being a productive citizen if they get in contact with a mentor.
Yeah.
And that's what Strong in My Father is about, is trying to find a way to help your young son have the opportunity to become a productive citizen, because we also continue to see on the news on a regular basis, either shootings, robberies, those pretty much the main two you see. And when they show a picture of a young African-American male, first question I ask is that, where is his father? Because no good father want to be sure, wants to train a child to do crime.
Right.
And I'm a father of a 15 and 9-year-old, and they're not out here robbing and stealing. It's because they see a stable home in the family. So that's what Strong in My Father is presenting. Want to be that encouragement for young men who don't have a dad in the home.
Right. And so far, so good. You've been doing it a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. Over 10 years.
11 years as a business, 21 as just a mentor.
Yeah.
Picking up kids. Like yesterday, I have a kid who used to be in my program. His mother decided to put him in another program, which is fine.
Yeah. Because
I told him, as long as you get in the resources, I'm always going to be a big brother. But me and this young man used to go eat hot chicken. He always wanted to challenge me to eat hot chicken. But this young man, even though he's in another program, he thought enough to call me to say, hey, Mr. Marcus, I just want to check up on you.
Yeah. He was checking up on you.
Yeah, he checked up on me because, when you're underage and you leave our program, I don't really contact you. I usually contact the parent.
Right.
That keeps everybody safe. But this young man has my number. He reached out to me a month ago. He's like, hey, can we go eat some hot chicken? Because we would go to Party Foul and we would go see how the hottest chicken we could eat.
Yeah.
And
that was your thing.
Yeah, that was his thing. I don't like hot chicken. I just did it just to try to see he couldn't beat me, but he actually beat me. I'm not going to kill myself over no chicken. But I think it just shows you the impact when you're in someone's life and they really believe in you and they trust in you.
Yeah.
That's why our mentorship is so important. In business, you have all kind of business mentors. But for a young man who don't have a biological dad in the home that they could touch and see and talk to, if you're the next best thing, they really appreciate that and they value you.
Yeah.
So that's how our program has thrived and grown. And being able to, just say hi to a young man, hey, what's going on? Or give you a fist bump, or a young man telling you about their problems. It's just a way to give back and teach a young man the opportunity to have a better life. So I think in that 50 round table you was talking about, it's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's what we enjoy doing. We took some boys to Top Golf this past Saturday.
I saw the pictures.
Yeah, and you wouldn't realize how much fun they had and competing just playing golf.
Yeah.
Because most kids think, oh, it's a boring game. That's boring. Boring. It's not football. It's not baseball. It's not something exciting. But once you start teaching the developmentals of it, man, they really was really excited about it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to, in the previous episode with my brother, we talked about identity and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you listened to that episode, but my misperceptions on my brother were quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What I had seen growing up. I thought he had his identity and purpose, much more aligned than mine was.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what you're doing. It's you're giving them glimpses into, hey, this is something I can be good at and maybe pursue, have an identity aligned with it,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully feeds a self-esteem aspect and, garners some purpose over time. You just never know. You just got to get exposed to those types of things that, likely they otherwise would not have been exposed to, like golf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tiger Woods being the exception,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not primarily a white man's game or white person's game.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a lot of just African-American young men that you deal with and women?
No, I have one young man that's white and then one young man that's Egyptian descent.
Okay.
And even though those young men have challenges because they don't have fathers in the home.
You find, just here's an interesting question, despite their background, are the challenges all the same?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's still the same.
Yeah.
The young man that's from Egypt descent, his father was abusive.
Yeah.
So the mom had to leave. But then now he's in the 6th grade. He's been trying to discover himself.
Yeah.
And he got in trouble for vaping. So his mom reached out to us. Hey, he got in trouble for vaping. So I said, instead of me going off, I said, you know what? Come with me to the golf range. Let's hit some golf balls. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And to come to find out, he misses his father. He says, Mr. Marcus, I miss my dad. And so now when you are angry, when young men are angry, that anger tends to go in all different places.
Yeah.
And so now me talking to him, me spending that time with him, helped him, even though it doesn't still ease the pain. He knows in his mind, I have a male figure that I could call if I need him. And that's why mentorship is so important. because these boys are needing that. But I went to a church. I tell you this, I went to a church a little bit over a year, almost a year and a half ago. And I talked about fatherhood. And after church, there was probably 15 white people coming up to me, telling me their fatherhood story.
Yeah.
And one guy in particular has a successful construction business, beautiful family, but he has to go to therapy because he struggled because he said, I've never been validated by my father.
Was his father still alive?
Yeah, his father's still alive, just never validated him. And so I was really amazed and shocked that you have a successful business, beautiful family, but you got to go to therapy. So they really taught me that the father piece is so important.
Yeah.
And I think that once it's taken out, we don't talk about it a lot.
It's very true. On one of the past episodes with Pauline Joseph, a few episodes ago, I met her the very day she came here to be on the podcast. We had talked on the phone briefly before that. Going into what we talk about on the podcast, being other people's business, we went into places that were very vulnerable. Like it was one of the most vulnerable episodes I've ever done.
Yeah.
Even talking about, me having an anxiety attack, moving my daughter into her college dorm, which I never got it clinically diagnosed as that, but that's what I figured it was. She's like, hey, thank you for even talking about that. You know, because a lot of guys, like the guy you met, this on the outside, a successful perceived person from your standpoint, with these very, dare I say, elementary or just fundamental issues. Not the validation from a father, and the guy's still around.
Yeah.
What's stopping him from validating him? It's like, where's this? There's so many layers to it.
Yeah, I think is that every young man wants to be validated by his father.
Yeah.
Even me.
Yeah.
I wanted my dad. I think when I bought my first house, he was sitting in the living room with me, and he said, "Marcus, I'm proud of you."
Yeah. That's a big deal.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Versus him saying, "You wasting your money. Why you buy this house?" You're gonna remember either one.
Yeah.
And so from there, I felt good as a man.
Yeah.
That my dad was extremely proud of me because I did something positive.
Yeah.
Versus him saying something negative. Words hurt. So when people say sticks and stones and words will never hurt me, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Kids remember words. Kids remember trauma. They remember all these things. And if you don't get these items fixed, it will go into your adulthood. And then it's going to affect relationships. I was just watching Netflix with the late, great Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
And he said in there, it wasn't his father, but his mother not being in his life affected him on dating. He said, that's why I married so many times. I didn't know how to treat a woman.
Yeah.
Because my mother never treated me well. So when you have family dynamics that's affecting you, then it can affect relationships. It can affect how you raise your own children. It can make you abandon your children because you've never had the tools. You got the mechanism to have sex and produce a child, but you don't have the mechanism in your mind to say, hey, well, you know what? I got to be there for my kid.
Yeah.
So that's why fatherhood is so important. Just like when I leave here from running the podcast, I have to pick my son up at 4.
Yeah.
But just imagine, Jim, if I didn't pick him up and he didn't see me for the next 5 years. Right. And then I popped up out the blue and said, hey, Jordan.
Yeah.
How do you think he would feel?
Oh, gosh. It's because his computer mind brain is being programmed and hardwired right now. And it's like anything that traumatic happens to, like, there's a lot of things that happen to me that are good.
Yeah.
But because of things that have happened in the past, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, when's the other shoe going to fall? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then nothing ever really happens, but because of previous experiences, you can't help but go back to those points and go, well, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't want, if I set myself to be disappointed, I will be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's like that, the line from MJ in Spider-Man, No Way Home. She says, if you expect to be disappointed, you won't be disappointed. Yeah. It's a very cynical way to go through life.
Yeah.
And it could chip away at your demeanor and how you look at things.
Yeah.
But, it's a self-protection type of element of humanity.
Yeah, I got a lot of those things where I got that self-protection in me, man. I had to, because I have a lot of my father tendency that's been in me, but it's been like in this box that I've been that's always shaking. I don't want that box to open because my father is a very, very secluded individual.
Yeah.
He loves to be to just his family and 1 or 2 people. If you're not his brother, he's just not he's not the overwhelming, outgoing father.
Yeah.
He's more about business, and why he cut grass so many years?
He's old school.
Cut grass, exactly. He's old school. So the thing is for me is that I have the same thing running through me.
Yeah.
So I fight purpose, and I want to be like my dad. And my younger brother, same way. IT, no social media. He don't care about politics.
Right.
He just care about his job and his wife and his kids. That's all he cares about.
Leave me alone. I just want to do my thing and go home.
That's what my younger brother is. And so sometime in my world, when life started getting hectic, my tendency wants to go to where my dad and my brother is versus trying to say, hey, this is your purpose. This is what you're on this earth to do, is to teach these young boys some skills that your father taught you to help develop you to the man who you are today.
Right.
So when you have men who just still never had that validation, never had the things that they need, the tools they need to grow, it affects them. It affects how you talk. It affects how you do things. Why is domestic violence so high?
Yeah, that's what they saw.
That's what they saw. Yeah. Or they saw it on their phone.
Or they hear it in music.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So, and now they have these video games where a man is beating up a woman in the video game. Like, you got to press this button to beat her up to get to the next stage.
Yeah.
So when you don't have a dad saying, hey, you know what? We ain't doing that. Or like my kids, I can tell them from, we ain't doing this and that because I already know what road's going to lead you.
Yeah.
When you have boys in a home that does not have those tools, then they're out here searching for it. They're searching for it. They're hungry for it. And then when they get to our age, they're reminiscing on, man, I ain't had no dad. I didn't have this. And they, it's all these issues.
I mean, it's like, it's justifiable excuses in a way. I mean, borderline.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that you and I have so much in common is the fact that we both grew up with both parents.
Yeah.
I think your dad and my dad probably would have gotten along. He's what, in his late 60s, your dad?
My dad's 74.
74.
Yeah.
So my dad would have been 81. So he was about 7 years older than your dad.
Yeah.
That was one of those things that I look at. There's so many commonalities in our lives. Same age, same amount of years in marriage. We've got, one more kid than you do, but that was one of the amazing, astounding things that I think you and I hit off on was our similarities. Two brothers from another mother, quite literally. And you were just always, your dad was so much like, it sounded like my upbringing. You know? He was fun. My father he showed us emotion and affection.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a difference. Your father he's not an affectionate guy.
No, Dad's not an affectionate guy.
So that didn't pass through to you.
No, it didn't.
But one of the things if you've got questions for your dad, like, here's the thing. Here's where I'm going with this. With podcasting, I always talk about the legacy of podcasting. My kids will always, as long as there's an internet and a YouTube and ways to listen to these episodes, they will always have the ability to hear from me, even when I'm gone.
Yeah.
I wish I could have that with my dad. But the question is, in his generation, would he have been this vulnerable?
Nah. Now, my dad, you couldn't pay Dad to sit here and have a podcast. You couldn't do it. I would have to beg him. And then he'll say, Dad, nobody want to hear what I have to say.
Well, correct.
But here's the thing. If anyone goes to Strong in My Father's Instagram page, the first post is me and my dad talking simultaneously. I'm talking about how I was raised, and he's talking about how he was raised.
Yeah.
And you can see how he was raised is what he said, I'm going to train my boys. Now, did we turn out exactly what he wanted? None of your kids it's going to turn out exactly what you wanted.
No.
The goal is to leave something in them. So when they do make a mistake, they say, you know what? My parents didn't teach me that.
Yeah.
My parents didn't teach me that. So I had to realize that in what I'm doing. My dad just wanted me to work in a factory.
Yeah.
Because he knew the factory was a weekly paycheck and I could take care of my family.
Yeah.
I decided to go back to college. I said, hey, I'm going to step out on faith, do my own nonprofit. My dad was livid.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't even care how many degrees you get. You need to stay in the factory.
Yeah.
Because that's all he knew. But I was the one that says there's more than life than drilling a hole in an airplane wing.
Yeah.
So those are things where you have to challenge yourself different from my father. But the main core of what my life is centered around my dad.
Oh, buddy, you got to listen to my last episode of my brother.
I'm gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
I got a 45-minute drive to go get my son.
It'll give you some insight.
But I think the biggest thing is that my dad, once he saw me on television handing out turkeys and stuff, he understood that there was more than my life than this.
Yeah.
And I think from what our topic is, the challenges in nonprofit is that this was never my plan to do.
Right.
I wanted to do training development. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to conferences. That was my plan. What I'm doing now was never in the cards.
Yeah.
It didn't start going into the cards probably until 2014, 15. Mm-hmm. I graduated, got my degrees. I am trying to find a career.
Yeah.
So I can wear nice clothes, travel, get a bigger. I mean, I had like a stack of things I wanted to do.
Right.
And none of those things came to fruition.
Yeah,
So-
but you're only 10 years in.
Yeah. But that was before I started the nonprofit in 2013. So I had graduated from Trevecca in 13. I started the nonprofit in July, but I didn't take it serious.
Yeah.
I was like, this just to be a hobby. I want my career. I seen my buddies getting good money, dressing nice, and I wanted that. All I knew was the factory. So when I told my dad that, he was livid. He was like, no, you don't need to do all that.
Yeah.
Because working in the nonprofit is very challenging.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody has if you have a heart to serve, first thing they say is, I want to start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
But I think that once you dig, I will always encourage anybody who listens to podcasts is that you find somebody who has years in nonprofit. And I wish I could write a book called The Good and the Bad and the Ugly of Nonprofit. Yeah. I may write that, Jim.
You should.
Because I think that you should look at all angles before you sign up for a 501c3. Mm-hmm. Because the statistic shows that the average nonprofit is 3 to 5 years.
That's any business.
And it's done.
Yeah.
Because you got to go through the fundraising, the asking people. And I'm sitting here feeling like, how did I get to 11 years? I'm still trying to sit here and figure that out to myself. That's how I'm 11 years in.
Yeah.
And when you got to go through the pain of losing board members, people talking about you, all the challenges that you have to deal with in a nonprofit, and you're competing.
Yeah.
I think Middle Tennessee has over 41,000 nonprofits in the state of Tennessee. So you're competing against 41,000 nonprofits, funding, talking to people, help me out. You calling people, end of the year, can you give me some money?
Yeah.
And then you have to be sane trying to do all that work.
Yeah.
So I may write that book one day, Jim, because I want to teach a class. I always wanted to teach a class at a college or a junior college of anybody who has an aspiring notion to say, I want to start a nonprofit. Hey, you need, because no one.
It's a full-time job.
No one really sat down and told me. Yeah.
And it's got to be a passion, and your joy that you get out of it's got to be fulfilling.
Exactly.
To get through the hard part.
And I feel God didn't put me in front of somebody. If somebody could have sat me down and says, okay, Mark, you want to start a nonprofit. Let me tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
I wouldn't have done it.
Really?
Because let me tell you why. I have a problem with my problem is, and my dad didn't train me, if I have a sense that a problem is about to occur, I'm going to go a different direction. Mm-hmm. If it's a sense. Mm-hmm. So if someone said, hey, you could possibly go broke doing this, I'd be like, oh, I ain't doing that because I could go broke. So I really believe God didn't put people around me. My consultant, who at the time was my nonprofit consultant, she said it's hard and don't quit. Mm-hmm. But the lady who talked me into it, she said, oh, you can make a lot of money. So that's the first thing I was my ears was like, bing, a lot of money. But no one told me the negative sides of nonprofit. So I may do a book. I don't know how to write a book on that, but I just think that sitting down with someone and telling them my experiences in 11 years of running a nonprofit is very, very challenging. It's a book that this guy gave me, a little tiny short book called The Urge to Quit, because it's always there. Mm-hmm. It's always there. We don't want to deal with the challenge of a nonprofit. So those are all centered. And the way that I was built was centered around my parents.
Yeah.
How they trained me. And the crazy part, I'd never talk about my nonprofit issues with my dad. If we're going back to fatherhood, I would never talk to him about it. Because his mind is that just quit and go get a regular job then.
Right.
And my mom says, you ain't talked to God enough. So my parents are built not to, as a child, even you as an adult, you always want to get some encouragement from your parents. You want sometime, even at 48, you want to be vulnerable with your parents.
Yeah.
Mama, it's not working out. My parents are not like that. I go to my mom right now and she's going to say, what did God say?
Yeah.
Then she's going to say, you ain't prayed long enough. And then she's going to hang up the phone. I'm just serious. If I talk to my father, Dad's going to be like, so what you want me to do?
That's not my problem.
There you go. So that's why I tell. So even as a father, if my oldest son decides he's want to go in a nonprofit, I think if he says he wants to go to be a preacher, I'm going to sit down with him and I'm going to tell him the good, the bad, and ugly. And I'll find another preacher who has years of experience. And the three of us sit down. And I said, you tell my son the truth. And then after he makes his decision, then he has to live with it. I didn't get that.
Well, I mean, it's anything that you do is going to have good, bad, and ugly, pros and cons. I grew up in a self-employed household.
Yeah.
Similar to you, your dad was mowing the lawns. He had a business that required him. He kind of owned a job. Mm-hmm. My father built a business that expanded. He was able to step away to a relative standpoint. He had managers and things of that nature to help run the business throughout the 80s. But then economic contraction happened in the 90s, early 90s, that reduced him back down to him. Can you imagine at 50 years old, like we're pushing now, having to go back out in a truck with ladders, running wires and ceilings, pulling them down walls, putting phone systems in, doing stuff that you should be doing in your 20s and 30s, but you have to do it at 50. That's what happened to him.
Yeah.
So he did end up owning a job, which is what, most businesses, you got to try and get them to where you can step away and they run themselves. That's called scaling, right? Is it scalable? Can you duplicate? Will it run without you? Otherwise, you own a job. That's the kind of thing that you're looking in, even with a nonprofit. It's a business.
Yeah, it's a business.
It's going to have pros and cons. My father used to tell me, look, just because we're able to kind of live better than most people doesn't mean it's all sunshine and roses. I still have to make sure the business is fed. Revenue's coming in. I got to deal with, he used to call employees liabilities. He didn't see them as assets. I think there's a balance there that employees and your staff definitely should have a balance between asset and liability. Because you got to, if your culture is healthy, then they all can be complete assets. But yeah, there are cultures where employees can be very much liabilities. You got to worry about them stealing from you and not representing your business well, not treating it as if they were their own. He says, there are cons and pros with having a job. You could have gone back to your job, but guess what? You get fired and that's it.
Yeah.
You have to ask for time off. You have to ask for raises. You have to, ask for permission how to live your life. With a business, you don't need to do that. You still need to get your work done. And, your customers are ultimately your bosses for a season.
Yeah.
But there's pros and cons to everything. You know, it's the nature of what you're doing. For me, doing podcasting, this is me. I knew that when I was 21 years old going into radio. This is me. This is my identity. This is my purpose. I'm good at this. I could sink my teeth into it. I know in every fiber of my being I'm supposed to be doing this. The industry itself that I chose was a sinking ship, or that just like the Titanic just hitting the iceberg.
Yeah.
And by the time I got out, it was taking on a lot of water. Right now, it's the tail end sticking out of the water, ready to go down. The whole industry. I just read the other day that iHeartRadio is laying off more people.
Well, the iHeart was big.
It is big, but it's radio for its primary bread and butter is radio revenue.
Yeah.
So when those things kind of happen, pros and cons to everything. But I know I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. I guess that's when you tell your kids, hey, if you want to be a pastor, understand there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be pros and cons, good, bad, and ugly. But the good has got to feed your purpose.
Exactly.
Your joy. What's the joy you get out of this? What did I tell you when you first started a podcast? You got to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting paid for it. You're going to be paying to do it.
Yeah.
You better enjoy it.
Well, I think you opened my eyes up to that, mainly because, I did radio for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I took a break because I took a mental break. And I think we met in 21 or 22.
We had a phone call in 21, finally got it off the ground in January of 22. Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back. I know I can talk. And I think when I did your podcast at your old studio, it woke up something in me that says, hey, I want to go ahead and talk. And we've had great conversations centered around fatherhood that opened my eyes up to a world that I did not know. The comments are funny.
Yeah.
When people leave you positive and negative comments, it opens you to a world that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Mainly because I was so used to being private.
Yeah.
And even in the work that I do in a nonprofit, it actually opens me up to doing things that I'm not used to doing. Yeah. I'm not used to seeing. And I tell people that working in a factory was great. I made good money, but I didn't live life.
Is it fulfilling?
It just took, because I don't want to make it sound like it was bad, but just mentally, it felt like I was going to prison every day.
I get it.
Because when you go in, you can't leave until a certain time.
Right.
And then you go home, you eat, you sleep, then you go right back to prison the next day.
Yep.
And even though I don't know if any of my old coworkers listen to this one, they'll kill me if they find out. You call this a prison. But it's still taking me time to develop to a great nonprofit leader, mainly because I didn't get the tools or what I needed. I didn't get the tools that I needed while I was working in the factory.
Right.
I had to learn those tools away from the factory, and that's been hard.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't start really networking until 2021. So just networking and meeting people and asking people to help you and can you serve on my board? Then they're gone from your board. It's like, but the thing that gives you fulfillment about what you do has got to be your North Star. Yeah. Understanding that this is a means to an end. What's the end? Mm-hmm. Is that your North Star? Why do I get up every day doing what I do? My brother once told me, I said it on the last episode when I was talking to him. I said, I don't know if you know this, but you said something to me when I was about 21, probably about 19, 20. If you hate getting up every day, if you get up every day, you put your 2 feet on the floor once you get out of bed and you ask yourself, why do I have to do this again? That's not a good place to be. I said, Dan, you said that to me, and I remembered it. Yeah. And I said, I was working for an electrician at the time, exactly in that mindset, similar to you. Here's another similarity we just found out of each other, right? But I was 19, 20. I was learning a great trade, great skill set, learning how to use the tools and everything, learning the concepts, which come in very handy for me right now, and I have a much deeper appreciation for the trade. But at the time, I knew I was meant to do something different. That was the agonizing element of it, was that I just don't feel like I'm meant to be doing this right now. Yeah. What is it? I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but man, what if I'm missing out? Man, it's like I'm. You hate to kind of trivialize what you're doing and make the guys around you feel less than. Mm-hmm. Guys, I'm not meant to be here. I just feel like I'm meant to do something else. That's how I was at the factory, man. I think it hit me in 2003. My mom asked me to teach a Sunday school lesson. Yeah. And I said, Mom, I can't teach teach.
Yeah.
And she said, I didn't ask you to teach.
Yeah.
I just asked you to read the book and talk to us about it in the book.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is that after a couple of times, I fell in love with teaching and training and inspiring people. I just loved it. And so what ended up happening is that I started discovering my purpose and dream early in life.
Yeah.
And when I started discovering that was really before the mentorship. I just knew that I had a gift to do that. So that's what's changed me to, when we started doing podcasts, try to do some encouraging. Yeah. I know it's a whole bunch of podcasts that just does gossip, but I was like, can I do one that just really, encourage, bring up, the things around fatherhood, but also talk about other issues that affects people. And I know how many podcasts are going on today about the election. Yeah. There are people that's happy, there's people who are mad.
Yep.
But it's just to me, it's just gossip, people holding a conversation. But I think me and you both found that. I think you found that in me when I did your podcast. Because once I recorded your podcast, I was like, how much of the equipment? I want to do it. And I really, really enjoy the conversation and just look really forward to just continue that effort. And then I wouldn't do it without you. Yeah. So even when we did the conference last year, I'm like, I'm not doing it without Jim because I'm going to be nervous and I'm not doing it without Jim. And that was the first thing I told the representative from the Fatherhood conference is, are you going to do it? I said, look, if my producer's there, you got Marcus. If he's not there, I'm not doing it.
And we made it work.
And we made it work, man. I still enjoy that.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better, sound better, and, spring better. We just make them incredible again. Incredible Doors in Spring Hill. When your door's springs break, you need remote reconnections, opener installation, or just about anything to do with your garage door, go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR.
I got to say about that conference that you did.
Yeah.
It got a really cool headshot of me.
Oh, it did?
Somebody took a very candid photo of me while I was up there with you. Yeah, and it was like, it's me smiling, having a good time. And I'm like, I like that picture.
Yeah.
It's funny. You're behind me. You see this one here?
We'll see.
Every now and then I actually take good pictures. Right? So for those of you who are listening, if you're watching this, I'm holding up a birthday card that was sent to me by Velko Tukiev, who is in the automotive F&I industry as far as training and stuff like that. He trains a lot of F&I people in that industry. I had taken this picture when we went to go see my daughter's college. Yeah. In the hotel room, I was doing some works, and I looked up in the mirror, and I'm like, there's very few times at this age that I like a photo of me or how I look for a myriad of reasons. And I looked up, and I'm like, damn, I look kind of sexy. So I took a picture of myself, right?
Yeah.
And put it up on Facebook, said, not oftentimes that I see a good picture of myself, so I'm proud of it. I'm going to put it out there, and it got a lot of engagement. A lot of people liked it and everything. So,
wow.
Lo and behold, my birthday comes up. I get I guess I get some business cards that come in that, automated that hey, happy birthday. Remember us. Here's my business card. So this guy sends me that card with my picture on the front of it.
Oh, he caught you.
Dude, here I am saying his name, saying what he does, remembering the experience. And what a sticky way to get his name. I remember who did it. What a marketing technique.
That's a great marketing
Good on
move.
it. It's in the background as we're doing this podcast. You know what I mean? So every now and then I get a picture that that happened at that conference, and I was like, man, that's actually, it's up on my, you see it on my profiles as we speak.
Well, so, I think
that was one of the positives for me that came out, as narcissistic as it is. But.
No, I think that once the Fatherhood conference also gave me the courage to talk in front of many people. I've never been in front of many people before.
Well, you did the podcast episode.
Yeah, the podcast episode there. And then that just gave me an opportunity just to see people's reaction. And having a great person to talk to, which is Troy, it pushed me to say, hey, you can do this. You can challenge yourself to talk to people and have great conversation without being nervous. Because most people, when you get in front of a mic, when you do a podcast, you're nervous.
Yeah.
And so I think my goal as a podcast host is to make sure my guest is comfortable.
Yeah.
I said, get in the car, let's just ride and let's just talk. And that's how we end up making that work. But I want to get back to the nonprofit you was asking me about.
Are you doing the interview now? Or
I don't know, man. We just talking now.
That was one of the cues that you use in your own podcast.
Yeah, I do that.
I want to
get
back to this.
Yeah, mainly because I want people to understand. It's plenty of great now. I'm going to a charity tomorrow at Top Golf because I love playing golf. And they're nonprofit, Nurture the Next. And they have a call to help women and birth and all of those things I don't usually talk about. But everybody has a cause that they believe in and a cause they want to help people. I think just a lot of people just don't know the behind the scenes work that it takes to run. You know, number one, if your board's strong, if you got a good, strong board, and people ask you, what do that mean? And I tell people all the time, it's people who can make connections. Yeah. Because everything in nonprofit, and I think, you know, and you'll probably tell me in the business world, it's all about connections. And the thing, and you can elaborate on this because you can help me out, is that I really didn't know when they say it's not about what you know, it's who you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't believe that.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that for a long time. Like, why do I got to know all these people just to make a living?
Yeah.
And that's a struggle for me.
Relationships are certainly a currency.
And so I think sometimes in my world, you get tired of telling heartstring stories all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I got to tell a heartstring story for you to feel sad for me and then say, oh, I'm going to cut you a check.
Oh, you're appealing
and to me, it feel like it's a hustle.
Yeah.
So I think anybody that wants to get into that world has to understand all different type of techniques of fundraising. Yeah. And I'm still learning. There's an Audible book that says, it's the dummy book that says the dummy book of fundraising.
Yeah.
And it just teach you different skill sets on how to get somebody to make a donation to you. Yeah. And it's tough.
It's salesmanship.
Yeah. I didn't know until I think either you or somebody told me that, said, hey, Mark, you just a sales guy.
You are.
And I don't feel like that, but.
And your board is like your sales team.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Yeah. So I think anybody who wants to start a nonprofit, I encourage you to talk to somebody who has years of experience.
I would say it's fair to say and assess that if you're looking to start a nonprofit, it's not as simple as hanging a shingle and having everybody clamor to give you their money.
Yeah.
They got to, for anybody that gives a nonprofit money, okay, I got to feel like I want to feel good about it. Mm-hmm. I know it's got to be a cause that I believe in. And that's one of the things I champion about you is I believe in what you're doing. I agree. Mm-hmm. As a father, I think fathers right now, for the past probably 10 years, we'd be getting a raw deal. Mm-hmm. Society's looked down on us. You got all these movements and the patriarchy and all this stuff. We're not needed. That's a narrative.
Wow, I didn't know people saying we ain't needed.
Yeah.
I don't watch news enough.
No, I mean,
we're not needed.
I don't, and I violated my own rules by watching and getting more engaged with topical things as of late, but I'm not to the point where I'm marinating my mind in it like I used to, but it's out there. There are movements out there that, well, like, why do we need men? Okay. I
know people. Yeah. That's weird when somebody would look at
that's almost like detrimental to your movement.
Yeah. Well,
because I'm a father. Why you need me?
Well, I'm just going to tell you, if you don't have it, you're going to have problems. Right. So I tell people all the time, it's like you driving a car. You got an instruction manual. If you don't do everything in that instruction manual, you're going to have problems.
Right.
When the father's not in that house, your kid most likely going to have some issues.
Right.
And if you don't address those issues, then they're going to grow into a man. And then what's going to happen with them?
Right.
Them issues never resolved. Just like the guy I told you who has a successful construction business. And I'm sitting eating lunch with this guy. And I'm like, you very successful and you got to go to therapy?
Yeah.
Just because of his dad.
It makes a difference. If you listen to the episode.
That's messed. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jen. I have never seen anything like that in my life before. Yeah. And I know several guys who go to therapy because of their dad. So if you take them out the home, you're going to have some issues because it was never built for a woman to have to do everything in the house by herself.
Right.
luckily me and my wife, I told my wife, so you imagine if you had to get up every morning, take both boys to school, pick both of them up from school or take them to child care. Then you have to go to all little sports activities, then come home, homework, cook, iron clothes. When do you have time for yourself?
Right.
It's easier when me and my wife can tag team on stuff. Hey, you gonna cook? All right, I'm gonna help the kids with homework. You cook. We do this, you do that. You see how it's easy?
Yep.
When you tag team on stuff versus one person just doing it all by themselves, because you're gonna lose your mind.
Yeah.
And so the work that I do and the moms I've talked to, when we do have our mom sessions, a lot of these moms are on the breaking point and losing their mind.
Yeah.
Because they have to do everything. Well, it was never built and designed that way. So when I hear, these movements, if I ever hear about it, I'm going to say something. I'll do a podcast on that. Because I'll say, when you don't have that, who's going to help you?
Right.
And because it's never built for this to do the work of raising a child by yourself.
See, the funny thing is that here we are the day after the big election, recording this. There's a lot of vitriol, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of celebration. Depending on how you look at things, a lot of stuff is happening today on social media, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of terminology. My brother and I were talking earlier today about it, and he says, I see this word misogynist being thrown around. He says, he's an attorney. He says, do you want to see misogyny? Go to family court.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to see how, you want to talk about women's rights and fathers' rights and and men's rights, how men are just treated in family court.
I heard that one.
Termination of parental rights.
Yeah.
Having to go up, and then they're getting milked for, 50, 60% of their income, and they don't even get to see their kids. That's just a part of the deal in divorce. That's just automatically assume the father has to go in and fight for even rights, 50% custody, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's automatically in the woman's favor.
Yeah.
Okay. That she gets half of or more of everything. And then, you don't get to see your kids ever again.
Yeah. Well,
that happens.
I know in Georgia, they have a real strict law on parental rights in kids. I went to a golf tournament back in 22, and there was this one guy told me once him and his girlfriend broke up, he lost parental rights to his child. He had to go to a class just to be labeled on the birth certificate as a father. Yeah. And so I just tell people, man, do your best to try to stick with your kid. Well, because it's very hard.
Or divorce in general just isn't fun.
No, it's not fun.
But I mean, you get a lot of people that, there are people that are out there fighting that fight right now with women who have full-time incomes. And these guys are still getting bled.
Well, I mean, like I said, I've never experienced divorce. My parents never been divorced. I've heard a bunch of stories. Yeah. A bunch of stories about divorce, child support. And I think, my dad, I will say this, when my dad made me work in the factory, definitely I've never heard of child support until I was like 22. Yeah. 22, 23. Never heard of child support. And my nickname was Young Blood. He said, hey, Young Blood, I want to teach you something. He said, I know you're talking to all these girls, but he said, man, if you could hold out till you get married and have your own child with your wife, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. And I said, why is that? He said, look at my paycheck. And he had made like $1,500 and he only took home like $25.
Because everything was going.
Child support.
Oh my gosh.
So I said.
And then alimony.
I said, what happened to your paycheck? He said, I got 6 kids.
Wow.
So he said, Young Blood. So that's why I'm thankful I had no outside kids, because I was scared of child support. Yeah. So I was scared of it. So I was like, all right, maybe I need not go out with all these women, sleep with all these women. I can't do all this stuff. Let me try to do right. Because that guy showed me, I think it was like SR something, and I could still remember to this day, he showed me his paycheck. And he said, I just want to help you. So when you have children, you're there for them, because if you leave or if you cheat, if you go do this, you're going to pay child support. Yeah. So at 22, 23, I was scared of child support. And because I seen the guys at the factory have to go through that.
Not getting a girl pregnant.
Yeah, man.
Child support.
I was scared, man, just because of that word. So when I hear people talk about child support and stuff like that, man, it's tough. I think that any man should do whatever he can. If you don't get along with the mother, you do whatever you can for the child, because the child's going to either grow up happy with you or it's going to grow up mad with you.
Yeah.
And then that child's going to eventually meet somebody else. And then now you start in cycles of anger, problems, and all this other stuff. And that's what our program is about, teaching. I want to teach. I got a young man I spend time with from time to time, and his parents are separated.
Yeah.
Well, he's in the middle of it. And I says, all you have to do is not do what your parents did. And I says, I'm here as a big brother that will teach you. I said, but you can't carry, and if you got to get help, you got to get help. Don't carry all that trauma, the stuff you've seen and you've been through into your relationships. You're a smart kid. You going places, but you can be educated, smart, all those things, and still be an abuser and everything else, because you still have undealt with trauma. Your trauma hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah.
So that's the things that I teach. Even though I haven't been through what a lot of these kids in my program have been through, I haven't been through probably 25. I have never seen some of the things I've been told before. Mm-hmm. That I was like, wow, you got to go through that as an 8th grader?
Yeah.
As an 8th grader, you got to go through this.
You know what I'm realizing just now as I'm talking to you? We were talking about not having mentors, right?
Yeah.
In various capacities.
Mm-hmm.
You've had your father to a certain extent, whether or not he was an intentional mentor, he's still a mentor, showing you an example of how to live. You've had the one gentleman who showed you his paycheck.
Yeah,
that was a mentor activity.
Yeah, I still remember that.
Dude, the kids that you're mentoring, they're mentoring you. Because you don't know what it's like to grow up without a dad. They do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If anything, they're teaching you as well.
Well, it's just opening my eyes to a society that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
So when you live a sheltered life, I didn't see domestic violence.
Yeah.
So I saw it on television, and I was like, why is this man hitting this woman like that? My dad told me never hit a woman.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see somebody fall down drunk growing up till I saw it on television. So my parents did a good job trying to keep us away from a lot of bad stuff from the world. I think that for me, because I tell anybody, don't go to school for psychology. You listen to this podcast, do not go to school for psychology, because it messes your brain up. It messes your brain up. Because I'm always trying to think when I see things, even with the election, people are mad, people are happy. And I said, it just shows how people get caught up in emotions and stuff like that, and being mad and stuff like that. I went to bed. You know, once I saw Trump was going to win, I was like, all right, he's going to win, I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah.
I just went to bed.
I don't even really.
I'm not going to sit here and be like,
I know people that stayed up till 3 a.m. I'm going, dude.
Man, bump that, man. I think that
you have no control over it. There's no bearing on the outcome if you stay up.
No,
I think mainly I just don't want to be surprised when I get up in the morning. That's, And this morning when I got up, I looked at my phone. I'm like, it is what it is. Whatever happens, we'll get through it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I've been through.
Yeah.
Democrats, Republic. I've been the best thing I tell anybody.
You and I have been through.
Save your money. I tell everybody, if you want to do anything, any election, is save your money and watch what you buy, because you don't ever know how the economy gonna go.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be smart with your money, find good financial advisors, and I think the last thing is trust God. I think that once you put an individual over God, you're gonna have problems. And so I just never got caught up with it. Me and my wife really didn't watch it. I think I looked at it like 9 o'clock, and I was doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh, you need to see who's winning. And once I saw, I was like, all right, I've been around the corner. I've been voting for 30 years. That's kind of how I know this stuff going to go. And here's what it is.
Oh, gosh. You made me feel old just now.
30 years I've been voting, man. But I am happy that my older son, get to vote at the next election.
Midterm elections,
Yeah, when he turns, he'll be 18 in 2 more years. So next president, I said, son, you'll get a chance to vote with dad.
Yeah.
So I vote, you vote. And
you expect him to vote the way you vote?
I don't worry about it.
Okay.
I don't worry about it. I never want to be a father that tells my son what you're supposed to do. Now, I was trained to vote one way, but I will never tell my son to vote one way. Right. I would just never do that. I think, kind of like I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm always going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Now, this is from dad's opinion. Now, you, as my son, can go out here and do whatever you want to do. You grown.
Yeah.
but you're going to have to deal with the good, bad, and the ugly. And then that's it. And that's how we don't talk politics in our house. My mom's like, don't call me about no election. I don't care. She's like, I'm 74. I'm getting close to death. Who cares? That's just how they talk. So I think just all those things is what I try to import and put in to kids that I work with. And hopefully the next, God bless the organization. If anybody listens, tell them please donate. And because I do want to, the only thing I want to see is the next person who can be a strong mentor like me.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want to walk into a classroom and this guy's just killing them with knowledge and everything. And it's not Marcus. Marcus has put his mark.
No pun intended.
On mentor. Yeah, I put my mark on helping a lot of kids. And I really, really enjoy it. Nice. I had a kid who called me last Thursday. They called me Unc at school. Hey, Unc, kind of like Shannon Sharp. Mm-hmm. And he called me last Thursday and he said, hey, Unc, I just want to see how you doing. He told the school counselor, can you call Unc for me? Mm. And this kid didn't even want to be in our mentorship. The in-school mentorship, he didn't even want to come.
Wow.
He didn't want to come. Hmm. And now he got all the other kids to call me Unc. I walk in the hallway, hey, Unc. That shows you the power of consistency.
It's a term of endearment.
And showing up every Tuesday to that school. So, that's a part of my life now. It's part of them boys' life. So, but I got to keep going. Got to keep grinding.
So everybody can find you at strongerthanmyfather.org?
Yeah, strongerthanmyfather.org. Look at the right button on the right side of the website. It's an orange button. It says donate.
That's right.
Donate your money and help us continue to fight for the fathers one child at a time. That's what we want to continue to do is fight and give these kids some hope. Because they see a lot of bad things, but we want them to see positive things that can make them turn into a positive young man. Yeah. So I'm not going to court. I don't have to go to jail to visit you. I can see you walk across the stage, go to college to gain a life skill. That's what we want to do here at Stronger My Father.
Nice. Well, there you go. Go check it out. And I believe as little as $25 a month helps out, right?
Yeah. As little as $25 a month. Help us out, man.
All those details are in the description. And, of course, please go to MMTBP.com to find out more about us. Follow along, share, subscribe, rate. If you got something out of this particular episode, let somebody know about it. That would be wonderful. And, of course, if you want to be on the podcast, go to MMTBP.com. There is a link there. You can apply to be on. And, hey, there's probably a good chance I'm going to have you on. So just go ahead and fill it out. So check us all out, MMTBP.com. Marcus, always a pleasure, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Anytime you want to talk, give me a call.
We'll do it.
All right.